In the cold, black silence above Earth, a man worked alone. Elias Voss floated inside a narrow steel chamber, tethered by a magnetic clamp on his boots. Around him, half-assembled panels, tools, and cables drifted lazily. The vacuum beyond the thin hull pressed in, heavy and eternal. But Elias was calm, focused. Every motion was deliberate. Outside the viewing window, Earth turned slowly, vast, wounded, and cloud-covered. The planet still looked beautiful from orbit, though Elias knew better. Most of its cities were dark scars now, burned by decades of resource wars. The governments had fallen long ago, replaced by corporations that fed on what remained. Humanity had survived, but barely. And in orbit, those same corporations now claimed the sky. Elias had not asked for this life. He had once been a brilliant engineer, working for an aerospace agency. He had designed satellites, escape pods, fusion engines. He had lived in a clean white lab, surrounded by quiet people with loud minds. But that world had ended the night EtherCorp burned his town to the ground. They weren't aiming for civilians, they said later. It was a targeted energy strike. Wrong coordinates. Collateral damage. Elias's wife and daughter were among the dead. After that, he disappeared. Now, 8 years later, he lived in a shell of steel, wrapped in solar cloth and hidden deep in the orbital graveyard where old satellites floated like bones. No one knew he was here. No one but him. And the machine he was building. He called it the Aegis. It was long and lean, covered in modular armor plates, with 6 fusion drives nestled in a crescent-shaped core. Its weapon ports were still sealed shut, but inside, rail guns and laser batteries waited in silence. The power core was shielded in dense carbon weave. The ship's AI was still offline, waiting to be awakened. But soon, very soon, it would be ready. Elias moved carefully through the interior frame, checking connections. A snapped cable could mean death out here. He worked in silence, speaking only when necessary into his recorder. Core stabilizers locked. Pulse section delta complete. Weapon ring alignment, 99.8%. He paused, wiped the sweat from his brow, then pushed off gently to the next module. Sometimes, he missed the sound of voices. Real voices. Not audio logs or AI chirps. But he reminded himself he was doing this for a reason. For them. For those who couldn't fight back. For those who still lived under the boot of EtherCorp and the others. If one man could build a warship, maybe others would believe it could be done too. He reached the outer airlock. Outside, panels shimmered in low orbit light. He opened the hatch and drifted out, his suit clamping magnetically to the ship's hull. He adjusted a solar wing, checking its alignment. As he did, a soft chime echoed in his helmet. Alert. Unidentified signal detected. Bearing, 213. Elevation, -5 degrees. Elias froze. He activated his HUD. A pulse signal. Narrow band, low power, but not natural. Not background noise. Someone, or something, had pinged his position. He stared into the void. Nothing but stars and debris. But something had changed. He floated there, breathing slow and steady, as the soft tone of the alarm repeated. Then, without a word, he turned and glided back into the ship. Inside the main control room, Elias closed the airlock and ran diagnostics. The signal had come and gone. No trace remained. Whoever sent it, they knew how to stay hidden. Too soon, he muttered. I'm not finished. He stared at the schematics of the Aegis. 82% complete. The weapons weren't ready. The AI was still in learning mode. The armor plating hadn't been stress tested. And someone had just found him. He didn't panic. Panic wasted air and time. He just looked out the small window again, past the drifting wrecks of satellites and broken dreams. And for the first time in years, he spoke aloud to the empty ship. They're coming. He clenched his jaw and tapped the main console. Then we finish this now. Far above the clouds, aboard the sleek and cold metal hull of the Vigilant, Commander Rhea Malvek stared at the holographic map floating in the center of her command deck. Thin red lines marked known orbital traffic. Civilian satellites. Surveillance drones. Transport lanes between corporate space stations. Everything in Earth's low orbit was monitored, tagged, and controlled. Except one anomaly. Run the scan again, Rhea said, voice calm but sharp. The technician beside her hesitated. It's faint. Could be debris interference, ma'am. No, Rhea stepped closer, folding her arms. Something is giving off controlled heat. Not a natural source. What's the frequency? The tech tapped a few keys. Narrowband pulse. Buried under noise. Barely caught it. Rhea's dark eyes narrowed. Then someone doesn't want to be found. She turned from the display and walked toward the front viewport. The stars outside didn't care who ruled orbit, but she did. EtherCorp had spent 2 decades building dominance over the orbital lanes. Mining, energy, defense, if it floated above Earth, they controlled it. Rhea had helped build that rule. She wasn't about to let it be challenged. A hidden signal meant someone was hiding something. Prep recon drones, she ordered. Class 3. Silent pattern. The bridge crew moved fast. They knew Rhea. Efficient, smart, and unrelenting. She didn't shout. She didn't threaten. She simply expected excellence, and she got it. That was why EtherCorp trusted her with the Vigilant, their primary patrol cruiser in Earth's inner orbital shell. As the drones launched, Rhea returned to her private quarters. She needed quiet to think. The room was minimal, gray walls, a single chair, a bunk, and a desk with a data terminal. She tapped into the old records. Unregistered orbital signals were rare, but not unheard of. Most were pirates, smugglers, or desperate scavengers clinging to life among the debris fields. Occasionally, a rogue engineer would try to build something in secret until they were found, fined, or vaporized. But this signal, it was different. She ran a waveform analysis. The power source had a signature that was deliberate, controlled. A low-level pulse, just enough to run systems without being seen on standard scans. Someone knew what they were doing. She leaned back in her chair, thinking. The only people with the skill to pull something like this off were either dead or hiding. Her thoughts paused. Elias Voss. His name hadn't been spoken in years, but the memory returned. A prodigy in propulsion design. A top-tier engineer. He had vanished after the Burnwater incident, EtherCorp's strike on the rogue energy site that had taken out a civilian district. He lost family in that attack. Went completely off-grid afterward. Officially, he was presumed dead. But this? It had his fingerprints. She tapped into her encrypted command log. Potential Voss sighting. Signal trace near Orbital Graveyard Sector 14G. Recommend silent approach and immediate evaluation. Then she stood and returned to the bridge. The holographic map had updated. 3 drones were en route, slipping between wrecked satellites and drifting panels of forgotten solar arrays. Visuals. The technician nodded. Nothing yet. Still approaching. Rhea stared at the feed. She didn't expect to see much. If it was Voss, he would have hidden well. But that didn't matter. Sooner or later, he'd make a mistake. Or she'd force one. Hundreds of kilometers away, Elias watched his screens. 3 faint dots blinked at the edge of his long-range sensors. Most systems wouldn't have noticed them. But Elias had built his own detectors, shielded from corporate networks. His ship wasn't just being built for power, it was built to survive. And to see the enemy before they saw him. Drones, he whispered. EtherCorp didn't send recon drones unless they were certain. That meant they had caught his energy ping. He had made a mistake. Too much power routed through the plasma conduits. He thought he'd filtered the emissions. They had found him. He closed his eyes and let the silence surround him. Then he stood. He had no weapons active yet. The Aegis wasn't ready for battle, but he could still send a message. He activated one of his orbital decoy nodes. A compact cube drifted out from a bay and released a magnetic burst, a pulse strong enough to scramble sensors in a 30-meter radius. On the Vigilant, the drone's feed suddenly went dark. Interference, the technician shouted. Source. Rhea demanded. Unknown, but precise. It hit all 3 drones at once. Rhea's expression didn't change, but her mind raced. Someone had countermeasures. That was no pirate. She turned to her crew. Prepare a stealth boarding team. No signals. No lights. I want boots on metal. Someone was challenging EtherCorp. She intended to find out who and end it. The hum of machinery echoed through the metal bones of Elias's station. Tools floated in zero gravity, still warm from use. Sparks flickered where automated arms continued welding hull plates to the unfinished spine of the Aegis. But Elias Voss wasn't working. Not right now. He stood at the central control panel, watching the drone interference report scroll across his screen. 3 hostiles, disrupted. Temporary loss of visual. Possible reinforcements inbound. They had found him. Elias knew EtherCorp wouldn't stop at drones. The decoy pulse had bought him time, hours, maybe a day, but not safety. The next step would be a full response. A ship. A boarding party. And eventually, destruction. Unless he finished first. He turned from the console and pushed off into the ship's core. The unfinished warship floated like a beast in hibernation. Its main hull was sealed. Life support systems were active. Weapon racks were still empty, but their control lines were ready. The fusion core was quiet but stable. The AI system rested inside a black cube, untouched. Elias opened a panel and reached inside. His hands were steady. He pulled out the activation key, a short silver rod etched with microscopic code. He floated to the command chamber, the bridge of the Aegis. Its walls were bare metal, for now, its system skeletal. Only the command chair was in place, surrounded by wiring and blank screens. He slid the key into the control socket. The lights blinked once. Then again. AI core initializing. Identity. Aegis. Status. Learning protocol active. Commander identity confirmed. Elias Voss. A soft voice echoed through the chamber. Calm. Genderless. Commander. I am online. Elias let out a slow breath. Run diagnostics. Prioritize weapon systems and hull defense. Acknowledged. Systems at 78% efficiency. Weapon modules not yet armed. Suggest immediate fabrication of defense grid. Begin. The ship responded with a low hum. Fabrication pods opened along the rear deck, starting to print internal turrets and hull-mounted countermeasures. They would be basic, but enough to defend the core. Elias pushed himself toward the lower deck, where the railgun coils waited for installation. Each weapon was nearly 8 meters long and made of superconductive alloys. He'd salvaged them from old defense satellites, reshaped and upgraded them over the years. The auto-arm system couldn't do the full installation alone. He had to finish it by hand. For the next 5 hours, Elias worked nonstop. He clamped the railguns into place, sealed their power lines, and calibrated their aim. Sweat beaded on his forehead. His muscles ached. But he didn't stop. Outside the station, a distant spark blinked in the void. He didn't notice at first, but the station's alert system did. Alert. Incoming signal. Vessel class. Frigate. Registration. EtherCorp. ETA. 17 minutes. He paused. They were early. Pull up exterior cams, he ordered. The screen lit up. A dark shape moved slowly through the stars, barely reflecting sunlight. Its engines were throttled low, stealth approach. They thought he wouldn't see them. He stared at the screen for a long moment. Then he spoke, calm but cold. I warned you. He floated back to the command chair. The AI's voice chimed in. Autoguns online. Defense grid in passive mode. Powering up railgun array. Elias nodded. Route all non-essential power to weapons and propulsion. Prepare decoy pods. Done. Outside, small black cubes launched from the Aegis. They began to drift, silent and slow, mimicking signal emissions and thermal readings. If EtherCorp relied on heat tracking, they'd chase ghosts. But he wasn't done. He opened a private channel, narrowband, unencrypted. He didn't care if they heard him. This is Elias Voss. You are trespassing in restricted space. Leave now. There will be no second warning. He closed the channel. Back aboard the Vigilance boarding ship, Commander Ria Malvek listened to the transmission. She recognized the voice instantly. So she said quietly, You're still alive. The pilot looked at her. Ma'am, what are your orders? She smiled. Proceed. Slowly. No sudden moves. I want to see what he does. Back on the Aegis, Elias watched the enemy ship edge closer. It was a small frigate, likely carrying a team of operatives, maybe drones, maybe Marines. Not a full assault force, but enough to try boarding. He wouldn't give them the chance. AI, he said, target their thrusters. Disable, not destroy. Locked. Fire. A soft hum. Then light. From the belly of the Aegis, a railgun round launched at near-orbital speed. It crossed the gap in a fraction of a second and struck the enemy ship's side. The explosion was bright but brief. The frigate spun slightly, its rear engines flaring wildly. Inside, alarms blared. Ria caught herself against a wall, eyes narrowing. Pull back, she ordered. He's not bluffing. And he's not done. Elias watched them retreat. They would be back. With more firepower. He had made his position clear, but now they understood the truth. One man had built something they feared. He floated back to the main terminal, sweat drying on his face. Aegis, he said, prepare for full activation. We're not hiding anymore. The silence of space shattered. EtherCorp had returned, and this time, they brought a ship that wasn't meant to threaten, it was meant to destroy. Elias Voss watched the tactical map from the command seat aboard the Aegis. A single red blip appeared at the edge of his sensors, growing larger. This ship wasn't hiding. It wanted him to know it was coming. Class 2 assault frigate, the AI said calmly. Heavily armored. 6 missile ports. 2 manned gun batteries. Boarding clamps detected. They're not playing games now, Elias muttered. He had used every hour since the last encounter. The internal defenses were online, for rail guns were functional. Auto turrets guarded the outer corridors. The AI had mapped the entire station, and the fusion core ran at 80% output. Still not ready for a full-scale war, but enough to make it costly for them. Elias adjusted his display and zoomed in on the enemy ship. It cruised with confidence. The Vigilant's smaller sister, no doubt part of Rhea Malvek's command fleet. He expected her to be close, watching. She wanted to see if he'd fold, or fall. But Elias Voss didn't fold, and he had nothing left to lose. Activate railguns. Lock onto forward shields, he said. Locked, ready to fire. Wait until they open comms. Let them speak first. Sure enough, a blinking signal lit up moments later. Incoming transmission. Elias tapped the control. Rhea's voice came through calm, smooth, professional. Elias Voss. You've built something dangerous. You know that. But we're willing to offer terms. He said nothing. EtherCorp will assume control of your vessel. You'll be allowed to live. You'll be given a lab, a team, resources. You don't have to be an enemy. He leaned forward, ice cold. Do you think I built this ship to surrender it? A pause. Then her tone hardened. You built it to make a point. You've made it. Now stand down before someone gets killed. Elias closed the channel. Fire. A brilliant streak tore across the dark. The railgun round slammed into the frigate's front shield. The barrier shimmered, cracked, and bent inward. The ship reeled, slowed, and spun to stabilize. Within seconds, its missile bays opened. Missiles launched, the AI announced. 6 bright trails shot toward the Aegis. Deploy chaff. Bring up shield wall. Prepare counterfire. Tiny pods burst from the Aegis, scattering clouds of heated debris to confuse the missiles. 2 detonated early. The others kept coming. The shield grid, recently activated and barely tested, flared to life. A glowing wall of charged plasma wrapped around the central hull. 3 missiles hit the shield. 1 slammed into the outer ring, breaking through. The impact rocked the station. Elias was thrown from his seat, grabbing a support rail. Alarms screamed through the bridge. Reach an outer corridor, the AI warned. Auto turrets engaging. Elias wiped blood from his lip and climbed back to the command chair. Return fire. Target weapons and engines. The Aegis struck again. A second railgun round crippled the frigate's left missile pod. Then a precision laser carved through its portside thruster. The enemy ship slowed, then drifted. But it wasn't finished. Grappling arms extended from the damaged frigate. They latched onto Elias's outer hull. Boarding party incoming, said the AI. Estimated contact in 45 seconds. Elias stood and grabbed the rifle from the weapons locker. A sleek rail rifle he had built himself, designed for zero-gravity defense. Engage interior lockdown. Release automated defenders. I'll handle the rest. He left the bridge and moved down the corridor, boots clanging softly on the magnetic floor. As he approached the airlock, he could already hear them, dull thuds of tools cutting through metal. He knelt behind a bulkhead and waited. Sparks burst from the hatch as a plasma cutter sliced a circle into it. The metal groaned, hissed, and fell inward. 5 figures floated through, black-armored, visors glowing. Elias fired. The first intruder's chest plate exploded, sending him spinning into the wall. The second fired back, but Elias ducked behind cover, then launched forward with a twist, firing twice more. The corridor lit with muzzle flashes and tracer sparks. The AI's voice echoed in his ear. Auto turrets have engaged intruders in cargo bay. 2 neutralized. 1 retreating. He moved down the hall, methodical and precise. One by one, he eliminated the boarding party. No hesitation. No second thoughts. When the last soldier floated lifeless, Elias returned to the bridge. The enemy frigate was breaking off. Fire leaked from its rear. Engines flickered. It was running. Elias watched it drift into the dark. Commander, the AI said, signal intercepted. Audio only. He nodded. Play it. Rhea's voice came through again. This time, not calm. You just declared war, Elias. You don't know what's coming. He stared out the window at the stars. Yes, he said. I do. He turned back to the console. Then we finish this. Bring everything online. Aegis is no longer a secret. The war had started. And this time, Elias wasn't alone in the silence. Space burned behind the Aegis as the broken EtherCorp frigate limped away. Its hull sparked. Fires flickered inside its shattered thrusters. No more missiles came. No more soldiers boarded. They had come expecting weakness. They left broken and silent. Inside the bridge, Elias Voss stood calmly as warning lights blinked around him. His knuckles were bruised, his uniform torn. The corridor floor behind him was still smeared with streaks of blackened armor and blood. He didn't flinch. He didn't rest. He simply spoke. Status. The AI responded, voice clear. Frigate has left engagement range. Internal damage. Minimal. Outer corridor breached but sealed. Railgun coils need recalibration. All systems otherwise functional. Elias sat back in the command chair. Begin final activation. No more hiding. A low hum rose through the ship's walls. Power surged into every coil, every circuit, every engine. The dim lighting of the Aegis brightened. The AI activated backup nodes. Gun ports along the ship's spine slid open for the first time, revealing the gleaming mouths of rail guns and laser emitters. Elias opened the fusion core to full capacity. It glowed deep within the ship, controlled, clean, and strong. On the tactical screen, a ripple spread through the orbital grid. Dozens of satellites detected the energy spike. Civilian stations saw it. Mining rigs saw it. And far away, aboard the command cruiser Vigilant, so did Commander Ria Malvek. Confirm that reading, she ordered, stepping toward her cruise console. Confirmed, ma'am, the technician replied. That ship, Voss's ship, it just came online at full power. Broadcasting now. Broadcasting what? An open signal. Short, repeating loop. Play it. The bridge speakers crackled once. Then a voice filled the room. Calm. Steady. This is Elias Voss. I have built a warship not to conquer, but to break the chains held over Earth's sky. EtherCorp has ruled through silence and fear. That ends now. The sky is free. The loop began again. No threats. No demands. Just truth. Ria's face tightened. She turned to her communications officer. Send word to command. Mobilize the fleet. Tell them we're bringing that ship down. Now. Back aboard the Aegis, Elias worked quickly. The AI fed him constant updates. Fleet movement detected. Multiple vessels. Vector suggests direct approach. Estimated time to contact, 2 hours. He didn't respond right away. He floated quietly, looking out the bridge window at the Earth below. Even through the clouds, he could see the faint outlines of ruined cities, burned forests, dry oceans. He thought of his daughter. Her favorite book. The way she always wanted to see the stars. Now she was part of them. He clenched his fist, then returned to the console. Upload full defense protocols. Begin orbital scan for tactical positions. Done. Defensive mode active. Preparing stealth countermeasures. In the weapons bay, systems powered up fully. Turrets swiveled into position. Countermeasure pods blinked with light. The stealth plating, normally dull and black, shimmered with energy. Then he sent a second signal. A different one. Not to EtherCorp. To Earth. It was a wide-beam message, low-powered, meant to reach any resistance cells still alive down there. To those still listening, I am Elias Voss. I've built a ship that can fight them. I don't ask for your weapons. I ask for your truth. Broadcast what they've done. Show the world who rules it. He cut the transmission and watched. One by one, small signal bursts rose from Earth. Weak, scattered, but real. Cities he thought were silent answered back. Old underground networks. Pirate feeds. Civilian broadcasters. They were waking up. The warship hadn't just hurt EtherCorp's pride. It cracked their illusion of control. 2 hours passed. And then the fleet arrived. 10 ships. 3 destroyers. 1 carrier. Several gunships. All above Elias's position. He could see their long shadows darken the stars. They opened hailing channels. He ignored them. They launched fighters. He didn't move. Instead, he turned to the AI. Now, the Aegis surged forward. It moved like no other ship. Faster than expected. Sharper. Built not by committees, but by one mind focused on survival and precision. The first wave of missiles came. Elias's ship twisted, fired countermeasures, then returned fire. His railguns hit with surgical accuracy, taking out turrets, breaking thrusters, disabling engines. He didn't aim to kill. Not yet. Just to prove a point. The fleet hesitated. For every shot they fired, Elias answered with one cleaner, faster, and smarter. They had numbers. He had vision. Inside the Vigilant, Ria watched it unfold with clenched fists. He's dismantling us, her officer whispered. Ria knew. She had seen fleet battles for 20 years. But she had never seen one man and one machine move like this. She opened a secure line to Elias. He didn't answer. She tried again. Still silence. On the third attempt, he finally appeared. His face was calm, pale in the dim bridge light. "This ends now, Elias," Rhea said. "You can't win against all of us." He looked at her through the screen. "I don't have to win. I only have to show them that you can lose." And then he shut the line. 15 minutes later, the battle was over. The fleet was damaged. 3 ships disabled. The carrier was retreating. Fighters scattered. And the Aegis remained, floating, waiting, victorious. Elias stood in the bridge, breathing steady. The war wasn't over, but everything had changed. The first warship built by one man had risen, and the stars would never look the same again. The battlefield had gone quiet. The last of Ether Corp's damaged ships drifted away from low orbit, their lights flickering like dying stars. Fires still burned in the wreckage. Scattered debris floated around the Aegis, remnants of weapons, armor, and pride. Inside the command deck, Elias Voss stood motionless at the center of his warship. He watched Earth below, his expression unreadable. Cities lay beneath layers of cloud and ash. But now, signals were rising from them, clear, defiant, alive. His broadcast had reached the surface. The truth was spreading. Behind him, the AI's voice came softly. "Commander, enemy fleet is in full retreat. Long-range scans confirm no additional reinforcements within orbital range." Elias nodded slowly. "How long until they reorganize?" "Based on current fleet velocity and known patrol rotations, 30 hours minimum." 30 hours. A day and a half of silence before they tried again. He turned from the screen and floated back toward the inner systems console. All around him, the Aegis was still lit in red standby lights. The ship had performed well, better than even Elias expected. Its hull was scarred, some systems overheated, but it had held. Built by one man, powered by loss, and driven by justice, it had not just survived the first true battle, it had led the charge. But Elias knew it wasn't over. Ether Corp would be back. Stronger, smarter, angry. They would regroup with heavier warships, elite commandos, more funding, and more fear to throw at the problem. That was their pattern. Dominate, silence, rebuild control. Always control. But now, there was something they hadn't faced before. Hope. From Earth, the first pirate broadcast had already gone live. A voice, crackling and faint, but proud, echoed from a hidden underground station in what was once New Brazil. To all who can hear this, he's real. The ship is real. Ether Corp was beaten. They bled. We are not alone anymore. Look up. Then another followed. From the African free zones. Then the Europa miners. Then dozens more. Small, unconnected groups. Most had never spoken to each other. But now they did. And they all said the same thing. The sky was changing. Commander Rhea Malvek stood at the viewport of the retreating Vigilant, hands clasped tightly behind her back. She had lost. Not completely, but enough. Enough for her superiors to question her. Enough for the board to tighten their grip. Enough for the world to see that the great Ether Corp could be wounded. And that one man had done it. A message came through, encrypted and private. She already knew who it was from. She accepted the call. Elias appeared on screen, floating in his command chair, arms folded. No weapons. No threats. Just truth between enemies. "You could have destroyed the carrier," she said first. "You had a clear shot." "I didn't come here to destroy everything," Elias said. "Only the illusion that you control it all." Rhea didn't reply right away. She respected strength, but what Elias had built went beyond strength. It was vision. Purpose. "You started something," she said finally. "No," Elias answered. "You did. The day you bombed my city. I'm just finishing what you began." A long silence. "You think you've won," she said, voice cold. "No. I've made it possible for others to stop losing." He ended the call. Elias powered down the weapon systems and shifted the Aegis into low-profile orbit. Its fusion core dropped to minimum output. The ship darkened again, slipping between shadows and silence. He had no interest in ruling. No plans to conquer. He simply wanted people to know resistance was possible. He recorded one last message. Short. Final. "This is Elias Voss. If you're hearing this, know that I am still here. The sky is no longer theirs. It belongs to us all." Then he sent the ship toward deep orbit, far beyond Earth's reach, where no one would follow easily. Not yet. He didn't vanish. He became a legend. Down on Earth, people began to say the name Voss with hope. They painted the Aegis on broken walls. They listened for radio pulses. Some tried building their own ships. Others started underground cells. Ether Corp tightened its grip. But nothing could erase what had happened. The silence was broken. The first warship built in orbit, by one man, had risen, and it had shown the stars a new future.